Hi everyone, welcome to my class. Today I am going to start new lesson, that is chemical reactions and equation. This is the second lesson of chemistry in class 10. So the heading is chemical reactions and equations. Okay, so in this we are discussing mainly about chemical reactions and equations. So what is meant by chemical reaction? So chemical reaction, I will explain it. Chemical reaction. Okay, chemical reaction is a process in which new substances are formed with new properties from one or more substance is called a chemical reaction. I write down the definition for this. A process, this is a chemical reaction, it is a process in which new substance formed with the new properties from one or more substance is called chemical reactions. We can, best example, we can take a formation of curd from milk. So certain examples of chemical reaction I will explain here. Examples of chemical reactions. Examples. First is respiration. So that is also one of the chemical reaction. Respiration. Then second one is rusting of iron. Digestion of food. Any example which is convenient, which is easy for us, we can take examples. So digestion of food. Next, any example we can take. So respiration, rusting of iron, digestion of food, or anything like formation of curd. From milk. So these are the basic examples of chemical reactions. So mainly I will discuss about what is a chemical reactions, what are the reactants and products. So first we will discuss about the reactants. What is meant by reactants? In reaction, which are the substance involving, which are taking part in the reaction, we call them as a reactants. For example, we can take an example of zinc. This is the one reaction is there in a textbook, that is the reason I have taken this example. So zinc plus sulfuric acid, it gives zinc sulfate plus H2 as a gas. So this zinc and sulfuric acid both are involving to form a substance. So we call them as a reactant here. Okay, so this is called reactants. Like a carbon, it is reacting with the oxygen and forming the CO2. So these are the called reactants. The substance which are involving in reaction or taking part in reaction, we call it as a reactants. Next we'll discuss about the products. Same example we can take here also. The substance which is formed, that substance we call it as a product. For example, the substance which are involving in reactions, we already discussed it, it is a reactant, and by involving these substances they are forming a new substance, that is called a product. So now zinc is reacting with the sulfuric acid and it is a forming zinc sulfate plus hydrogen gas. So this is called a product, zinc sulfate, and it is a byproduct which is in the form of gas. So this is the zinc sulfate is called as a product. The substance which is formed by using this reactant, that is called product. So I will just discuss about the equations, word equations and or conditions of chemical reactions. First we have to discuss about the conditions of chemical reactions. Conditions of chemical reaction. So what are the conditions of chemical reaction? first of all, any substance which is in the form of solid and that is getting converted into the liquid, that we call change in state. So first condition of chemical reaction is change in state. Next, change in temperature. One substance is having in room temperature, it is in a different form. But if we are keeping in a cooling temperature or in a fridge, then that substance will form a different. For example, water we are keeping in a fridge, then it will form a solid. So there is conditions of chemical reaction is change in temperature. Change in temperature. Third is change in color. Certain substances in the reactant they have a different color, but once the reaction is formed, product is formed, so their product color will be changed. So that is the reason change in color, it is also one of the condition of chemical reaction. Next, change in temperature, and already we discussed zinc is reacting with a sulfuric acid, it is forming zinc sulfate. So zinc sulfate is in the form of PPT, but that hydrogen gas is evolved, so that is also the one of the condition of chemical reaction. So evolution of gas. Evolution of gas. So these are the conditions of chemical reactions. Now I will discuss about the equations. Why we are using word equations or chemical equations? Which preferably we are using chemical equation. Word equation we are not using. Why? Word equation, how we are writing it? Now zinc is reacting with a sulfate or sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid, and it is forming zinc sulfate. Zinc sulfate plus hydrogen gas. Okay, so in this case we don't know how many numbers of molecules of zinc is there, how many number of molecules of sulfuric acid is there, and zinc sulfate. Here also we can't identify how many numbers of molecules are there. But in reaction we have one principle that in a reactant as well as product, number of molecules should be the same. Means if one molecule of zinc is there in reactant, then in product also it should be one molecule of zinc. That is the called balancing equation. But in this case we are not able to find out how many number of molecules are involving in the reactant and in the product. So for that reason we are using chemical equations. So that is the reason heading of the lesson is chemical reactions and equations. So now I will write down the chemical equation. Now chemical equation is zinc plus H2SO4 sulfuric acid. It gives zinc sulfate and hydrogen. Okay, so we can identify here one molecule of zinc is there. In product one molecule of zinc. Here 2 molecule of hydrogen, 2 molecule of hydrogen. Here 4 molecules of sulfate, again 4 molecules of sulfate. So this is the reason we are using chemical equation instead of word equation. So this is about the today's class. So in the next class I will discuss tomorrow's next part. Thank you.